you ever wondered what actually separates a simple goal from absolute football immortality? I mean, every single weekend, thousands of goals are scored all across the globe. We jump up, we celebrate them, and then, maybe a year after the final whistle, that dull draw or that standard tap-in just fades completely from memory. But what elevates a mere statistical event into an unforgettable cinematic moment in history? What makes a single kick echo across decades? Welcome to this Arena 360 Explainer. Today, we're taking a dramatic deep dive into the absolute pinnacle of the beautiful game to break down the anatomy of the immortal football moment. We're going to trace the rise of the sport's first truly global icon, dissect the ice-cold audacity of individual genius, uncover some brilliant tactical revenge on the European stage, and relive the pure, unadulterated adrenaline of final-second miracles. So let's just dive right in.
Section 1, Icons of the Global Game. Because you see, before football became the interconnected, billion-dollar spectacle we know today, it really needed a pioneer. It needed a king. And it found one in Edson Arantes do Nascimento, Pelé. By the time the 1970 World Cup in Mexico rolled around, football had officially entered the global television age, suddenly reaching hundreds of millions of people. And Pelé, he transcended the sport entirely. There's this great note from a French journalist in 1971 who pointed out that Pelé was arguably one of the most famous people in the world, literally standing shoulder to shoulder with towering political figures. As a black sports hero, he became this massive, powerful symbol of advancement, sparking a wave of collective self-identification all across Africa and the Americas. He wasn't just a player anymore, he was a global phenomenon.
And to capitalize on that unprecedented fame, his club, Santos FC, launched these massive, exhaustive global tours. Between 1959 and 1974, they traveled across 5 different continents. We're talking South America, Europe, Sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. They were absolute cash cows, honestly drawing a lot of comparisons to the Harlem Globetrotters. But while global tours build a legend's brand over a matter of years, it makes you wonder, what happens when individual audacity alters the course of history in a single, high-stakes fraction of a second?
That brings us to Section 2, the audacity of genius. Because sometimes immortality isn't about global reach at all. It's about an ice-cold individual decision that humiliates giants and rewrites the history books on the spot.
Take Antonin Panenka. 2 years before the 1976 European Championship, he was just practicing penalties at his club. He and his goalkeeper would wager a beer or a bar of chocolate on each kick. And, getting tired of losing his money, Panenka devised this simple, cunning recipe for scoring, a delayed chip right down the center. Now, fast forward to the 1976 Euro final against West Germany. There is a major international trophy on the line. Panenka steps up against Sepp Maier, who is arguably the world's best goalkeeper at the time. Panenka feigns a shot, sends Maier diving out of the way, and coolly chips it straight down the middle. A move literally born for chocolate bars forever humiliated a giant, permanently naming that audacious chip the Panenka.
And that exact kind of audacity builds into what is arguably the most controversial moment in football history, the 1986 World Cup quarterfinal between Argentina and England. It was the ultimate mismatch. On one side, you have English goalkeeper Peter Shilton boasting a massive 20-centimeter height advantage. On the other, you have the sheer cunning of Diego Maradona. As a looping ball drops into the penalty area, Maradona jumps up, his left arm outstretched, fist tucked incredibly close to his head. He punches the ball past Shilton and right into the net. It was completely illegal, yet utterly undetected by the referee.
Maradona famously framed the act as a little with the head of Maradona and a little with the hand of God. But to really understand this goal, we have to look at the solemn backdrop behind it. The 1982 Falklands War between the UK and Argentina had happened just 4 years prior. Maradona later linked the match to the war, explaining the heavy emotional toll it took on Argentina, and stating that his undetected handball felt like a form of symbolic revenge against the English. It's a goal that perfectly embodies what's known as viveza criolla, a sort of native cunning that forever altered World Cup history. Section 3. Defying the European Giants. So, what happens when we zoom out from individual audacity and instead look at the triumph of the underdog through brilliant, collective execution on club football's biggest stage? Just look at the 1997 Champions League final in Munich. It is a cinematic revenge narrative. Defending champions Juventus were the heavy favorites against Borussia Dortmund. But look at these interwoven histories for a second. Just 4 years prior, Juventus had crushed Dortmund 6-1 over 2 legs in the UEFA Cup final. Yet by 1997, key Juventus players from that exact squad, Jurgen Kohler, Andreas Miller, and Paulo Sousa, had actually switched allegiances and were now starting for Dortmund. It was familiar foes meeting on the ultimate stage, with the underdogs absolutely desperate for redemption. And Dortmund pulled off an absolute masterstroke. Manager Ottmar Hitzfeld knew that Juventus relied almost entirely on their creative engine, the legendary Zinedine Zidane. So Dortmund midfielder Paul Lambert was deployed with one fierce, singular mission: man Mark Zidane completely out of the game. And you know what? It worked flawlessly. With Zidane totally suffocated, Dortmund defied the odds, securing a stunning 3-1 victory and claiming their only Champions League title to date.
Section 4. Miracles in the final seconds. We've talked about tactics, but what happens when careful tactics completely collapse? This is the moment where strategy melts into the pure, unadulterated adrenaline of a ticking clock.
I mean, we all know these legendary late goals, right? Sergio Aguero in 2012 lacing the ball home with just 90 seconds remaining to win the league for Manchester City. Or Troy Deeney in 2013 for Watford crushing Leicester after that incredibly unselfish header from Jonathan Hogg. And of course, Sergio Ramos in 2014 heading Real Madrid into extra time right at the death. As one former chairman perfectly put it, that was history out there. It was folklore. But there is one final second miracle that arguably stands above them all. May 26, 1989, a warm spring night at Anfield. It was the final match of the season, which had actually been delayed by a month out of deep respect following the tragic Hillsborough disaster. Arsenal was facing league leaders Liverpool. Now, to snatch the title, Arsenal didn't just need to win, they needed to win by exactly 2 clear goals at Anfield. And Anfield was an absolute impenetrable fortress. Arsenal manager George Graham needed a brilliant defensive masterstroke to even stand a chance. Shocking everyone, he deployed a super rare 5-4-1 formation, dropping David O'Leary into an unusual sweeper role. This gave his fullbacks the freedom to push really high up the pitch and completely stifle Liverpool's dangerous wing play. And the gamble worked. For 90 minutes, they completely nullified the Liverpool attack, and Alan Smith managed to score a header, so it's 1-0, but Arsenal needed 2. The clock ticks past 90 minutes. The tension is just unbearable. Injury time is added. 91 minutes. Liverpool makes an unnecessary time-wasting back pass. 91 minutes and 30 seconds. Arsenal launch their final desperate attack. Goalkeeper John Lukic bowls the ball out. Lee Dixon launches it forward. Alan Smith flicks it on. And suddenly, there is Michael Thomas, charging blindly through the center. 91 minutes and 40 seconds. Thomas evades a challenge, slips right into the penalty area, and flicks the ball past the advancing goalkeeper. 2-0. In the absolute final seconds of the season, Arsenal ends an 18-year wait for a championship. It was literally the night football was reborn. Section 5. Join the Arena 360 community. Because it's these moments, right? The global ascendance of Pelé, the audacious cunning of Maradona, the tactical brilliance of Dortmund, or that ticking clock miracle of Michael Thomas, they transcend the sport. They become our shared folklore. They unite die-hard fans across generations, reminding us exactly why we endure 90 agonizing minutes of tension for just one single second of absolute cinematic release. And that right there is exactly why we create these Arena 360 explainers. If you felt the goosebumps reliving these historical moments with us today, do me a favor and hit that like button right now. Share this explainer with a fellow die-hard football fan who lives for the drama. And make sure you subscribe to Arena 360 so you never miss our deep dive cinematic documentaries. But before you go, I want to leave you with a question to fuel our community in the comments. Which of these final second miracles is your all-time favorite? Or is there a forgotten goal out there that absolutely changed your life? Get down in the comments and let me know. Until next time, keep the legacy alive.